Hello again and welcome back to my channel, and in this video we're going to be carrying on discussing the essay, the Ielts essay for both general and academic test takers. In this video we're going to be looking at the two-question exercise that you could be given on the test day. It's also known as the direct question, but to be more accurate, it's two direct questions. And we'll be looking at how to address ourselves to that particular task. But for many students, they don't appear to like this part of the test too much. And I really don't understand it, because this I think is one of the easier types of question task to answer. And it's not the only one that has this type of format. If we look at the problem solution type question as well, that's a two-part, a very similar two-part answer that you've got to give in that particular type of test. I'd like to talk about some of the problems that we see a lot of from students taking this test, and these are three in number: not recognizing the type of question that's being asked. Like every question, if you sit there, when you're taking the IELTS and you come to the essay, read the task closely and you will get the right answer that you've got to give for that particular part of for that particular essay in the test. Many people, once again, like I've said before, they read it and they don't understand it, but they think they know it. Just double check. Many people get this one wrong. They think they're talking about a one answer and they try to tie it all together, and that's not what you should be doing. If there's two distinct questions, keep them distinct. It's a two-question answer. Another mistake that students make is that they don't treat each question equally, and it's important they do. You have to fully address each part of each question in its own particular importance. If you don't cover them properly, you will lose marks. So both questions are equally important. So when you're doing your introduction, include them in your introduction. When you're making your thesis statement, another error they make, they don't include them in the thesis statement, include them equally in your thesis statement. And that's the general errors and the way to avoid them. So in this video, we're going to outline the task for a particular essay. Then I'll cover the essay structure, and this is a two-paragraph essay. It's a two-body paragraph essay. So we've got an introduction, we've got body paragraph 1, which is answering the first question. We've got body paragraph 2, which will be answering the second question. And then, of course, we've got the conclusion, which summarizes both questions. So we've got a four-paragraph essay that we're going to write here. And the conclusion, as I say, summarizes both questions. And I've got a super tip to help you, give you a very, very good conclusion to this actual task. And of course, during this video, I'm also going to give you some vocabulary assistance for you to think about if you'd like to use that vocabulary or not. But I'll give it to you and you can make your own judgment. Maybe you can use better, maybe. Okay, if you're interested, let's get going, let's get into it. Let's take a look at the task that we're going to be addressing in today's video. Most schools offer some type of physical education classes to the students. Why is physical education important? Should physical education classes be required or optional? So there we are, we have a statement and we have two questions. Why is physical education important? Should physical education classes be required or optional? No debate about that. There's two different questions there. So we know we're on a two-question type essay. So what's the very first thing we should do? Everybody know? Yes, we should plan our response. that's the very first thing to do, is to analyze this and plan our response, how we want to answer this, and then we will have a good idea of the way forward. So let's make our plan now. If anybody saw my last video, then you'll know the way I like to do it. I like to have a left and a right, and the positive aspects on the left that I want to consider, and the negative aspects on the right that I want to consider. And that will help me not only formulate what I'm going to write, but help me, if it's necessary, to make up an opinion or make a choice of something. So that's the way I do it, and even in this type of question, which I think this is fairly obvious actually, but I still would go through the exercise every time, and then you're not going to make a mistake. So for question one was, why is physical education important? Well, it's important because I think it's a healthy activity that gets everybody involved. It's team building in a school. The class, it builds the team, gives them some team spirit, and it's also a fun activity. So there's three aspects there that we can write about in our first paragraph, body paragraph, and that's good. I don't see any negative aspects about having physical education in a school. I think it's very, very positive all the time with everything. Question two, should physical education classes be required or optional? Well, positive, the school has the facilities and the staff. If they're offering it, then the facilities are there and the staff are there, and that's very, very positive. If you make it optional, I think that would be very negative, because sometimes the students would want to go, and other times if they felt lethargic or they felt, oh, I don't want to do it today, then it would make the whole thing very erratic about the numbers going, and then your staff and your facilities wouldn't really know how to organize things, etc. So I think it has to be a compulsory activity, unless of course a student has a particular reason, maybe not feeling so good or has an injury or something, and they can't attend. Well, yeah, that's fairly acceptable, but I think in most cases it should be compulsory for them to attend. So that's the answer to my second question. Should physical education classes be required or optional? They should be required. If the school has the facilities and the staff, they should be required for that reason, and to prevent the erratic behaviour of students. So there you go. We've got our plan there. We're going to talk about those two particular aspects in our body paragraphs to question one, and the body paragraph to question two. So very easy. That's our plan made up. So now let's start producing our introductory paragraph. We must start by paraphrasing the task. So let's do this now, and we've got to do it as quickly as possible. So we're not going to do anything too complicated. Let's break it down. Most schools, the majority of schools, it means exactly the same. Offer some type, provide, exactly the same. Right, so we've got those two changes. Now let's rearrange the order. Physical education classes for students are provided by the majority of schools. Absolutely perfect, and it was very easily done. That's exactly the way you want to be paraphrasing things and not making it too complex. A little bit of changing things, using synonyms if necessary, but as you see, maybe a lot of times you don't even need to do that. Just change the order around a little bit and change the wording a bit, and you're there, home and dry. So that's the paraphrasing task taken care of very, very quickly. Let's now take a look at the thesis statement, which is the most important part of your introductory paragraph. In this particular thesis statement, I've said this essay is going to address two questions. Firstly, we will identify the benefits which are provided by schools having a physical education facility and why they are important to student welfare. Next, I will say why I think attendance at physical education classes should be compulsory. So there you've outlined the two questions, and you've indicated your opinion also, because you've said that there are benefits provided by schools having a physical education facility and that they're important to student welfare. So they know that that's your view on that, and they also know that your view of whether they should be compulsory or optional, you've said that they are, your opinion is that they should be compulsory, or my opinion actually. Anyway, what we'll do now is we'll go on and we'll look at the complete introductory paragraph, combining both the paraphrasing and the thesis statement. Here is our introductory paragraph. Physical education classes for students are provided by the majority of schools. This essay is going to address two questions. Firstly, we will identify the benefits which are provided by schools having a physical education facility and why they are important to student welfare. Next, I will say why I think attendance at physical education classes should be compulsory. Finished. Very good. Happy with that. It's 59 words. That's pretty close to what I like. I recommend between 60 and 80 words, but I'll accept 59 words here, and that's basically because the paraphrasing aspect was only a one sentence and it was quite short, so that's why that's brought it down. But it's certainly in the right ballpark, and I'm very happy with that. Now let's move on, and we'll start looking at putting together our body paragraphs 1 and 2, which will address the two questions. Progressing into constructing our body paragraphs for the essay, we need to start paying attention to both our vocabulary and our grammar and think seriously about how we're going to handle it. I keep telling my students, as far as the vocabulary aspect is concerned, try to maximize your use of your active vocabulary. Hopefully you have built a very useful range of active vocabulary and that you're comfortable using it in context. Maybe you've also got a very good range, as most students have, of their passive vocabulary. That is words that you kind of understand what the meaning, etc. But the only difference is you're not so confident about using them or so positive on how to use them in context. If you use them in your essay out of context, then it can seriously detract from your overall performance. So don't do it. You know, if you've got a good, don't worry about them being too complex, as long as you've got a good idea of how to use your vocabulary in context. That's the main important aspect. Let's talk about grammar now, which is particularly important in the writing part of the Ielts test. Firstly, punctuation. Punctuation is the aspect in grammar that makes your writing much more easy to understand and for the reader to be able to follow your ideas, etc., very easily on the paper. So punctuation is important. People don't get it all right, or very rarely get it all right, and there is allowances made for some grammar errors, but where you can, if you have time, when you've finished your writing, go back and just check your punctuation if you can. So sticking with grammar, and we're going to talk about sentence structures now, which is vitally important to you if you're going to get a good band score in your Ielts writing, because they are looking for good use of sentence structures in the writing part of the test. So what are we looking at? We're looking at three types of sentences here: simple sentences, compound sentences, and complex sentences. You need to know what these are. And particularly complex sentences, where we're using subordinate clauses, and these are what they're looking to see if you're effective at using these and can use them with ease. And if you can't, and if you don't demonstrate that, then you are going to struggle to get a decent band score, I can promise you. The way to get this going in your favor is when you're practicing writing, practice starting sentences with words like although, because, even though, even if, unless, provided that. This helps create the subordinate clause in a complex sentence, and you should really practice doing this and getting it right. Using idioms in general. In the writing section, I don't think it's nearly as important as they might be looking out for in the speaking section. But I would never ever encourage students to sit down and try to learn loads and loads of different idioms. For what, if you overuse idioms in the IELTS test, you're going to run into problems as well, because you're going to get them wrong. So I would say learn some very basic idioms that you can fully understand and you know how to use them. I've given you 3 here that could be probably used in writing or in speaking. You know, there are 2 sides to every coin. I hear many students use this one, and it's a very good one to use. On the one side, there are 2 sides to every coin. On the one side we have this blah blah blah, but on the other side of the coin it could be like this blah blah blah. You know, that's a very good one that you can use in speaking, and you could even use it in writing. But I think when you're doing this sort of essay, you've not got a lot of variations that you can put in there. Another one, don't cry over spilled milk. There's no point in crying over spilled milk. If it's happened, and we have to move on. Another one is, we're stuck between a rock and a hard place. If we do this, then we're going to run into a problem with that, or if we do that, we're going to run into a problem with this. So these are 3 that I would probably commit to memory, because you will get an opportunity to use these in an IELTS test for sure. But in the writing section, if I didn't get an opportunity to use them, it would not worry me in the slightest. Much more your sentence structures and using your complex sentences and your compound sentences, much more important. So here we have the 2 body paragraphs that I've written out. Let's read the first one. When a school provides a physical education facility, it is investing in an aspect that is going to enhance the student's learning experience in several ways. The first obvious benefit is health. By encouraging physical exercise in a gymnasium or team games, the benefits of better health will apply. In addition, working with the rest of the class will produce a team culture that in turn can be very beneficial for working together in the classroom and other aspects such as team projects. And that's 83 words. Okay, just briefly, let's look at how I started this, and going to what we were talking before about having complex sentences. I started this one with a subordinate clause. When a school provides a physical education facility. That's a clause, and it doesn't make sense by itself. When a school, so we need to complete that off by it is investing in an aspect that is going to enhance the student's learning experience in several ways. So we've got a compound complex sentence there, which is very good, and would get us off to a very good start. There's 83 words in that paragraph, and that's around about ideal. I recommend that you aim for around 80 words in each of your body paragraphs in a 2 body paragraph essay. Let's look at the second one now. If a school was to make the use of the physical educational classes optional, then it would likely detract from the available benefits. It would make no sense to invest in providing facilities and staff if all were likely to be underutilized which is likely to be the case if attending these classes was optional. Including the physical activities in the curriculum and making it compulsory for all students would maximise the value and effectiveness. That's 79 words, which is very close to our 80 that we're targeting. Once again, look how I've started that. If, one of those magic words. If a school was to make the use of the physical education classes optional, doesn't make sense by itself. If we need to complete that sentence, then it would likely detract from the available benefits. There we go. So once again, a good start to the second paragraph, and that really helps us get on the way. So there's our body paragraph. The conclusion. You know, we say that this aspect and that aspect is important. The introduction is very, very important. The paraphrasing is very important. In actual fact, to be truthful, in the essay, everything that you're doing is important, and any one aspect that you don't address properly could seriously let you down. And this includes the conclusion. Even though you might think you've done the hard work, you've done the paraphrasing, you've done your thesis, you've written your paragraphs, you can still seriously deter from your score by getting a very poor conclusion. So it's important that we do this properly. But it's much easier than you might think, and I'm going to show you why in a moment. But now we're moving on to the conclusion proper. And normally the vocabulary that we use to conclude is to conclude, or in conclusion. That's the most practical vocabulary to use. Okay, are you ready for the super tip to give you this super conclusion? Well, here we go. What can you see in front of you now? Do you recognize it? This is our introduction that we worked so hard to produce with our paraphrasing and putting our questions down, our thesis into the introduction. So it gave a good overall summary of what we were going to do in the essay. If we now use that again, but as a conclusion, what do we have to do? Actually, it gives a perfect summary yet again of what the essay was about. All we've got to do is change some of the wording and paraphrase some aspect, and there you have it. We have the perfect summary to our essay, and it will get you very good band marks in the essay itself. So it's something, once again, you're going to have to practice, and it doesn't take a lot of practice, but when you're writing it, practice it. Okay, let me just see what I've said now. In conclusion, almost all schools include physical education classes for students. Okay, that was the task. Identifying the benefits that this produced proved positive in several ways, particularly in health and team building. Another question considered was whether should attendance at these classes be mandatory. It was considered that giving students the option to attend could severely detract from the purpose of having this facility and negate the benefits. Perfect, absolutely perfect. And that conclusion is 64 words, which puts us well into the right area of the total amount for our essay. So here we are, folks. There is the complete essay. 1, 2, 3, 4 paragraphs and a total of 280 words. Absolutely perfect in every manner. Hopefully that would make a band 8, maybe band 8 plus, somewhere around there anyway. I think it would do very, very well. And you've seen how we put it together. If you want to take your time and read it in time, then you need to pause the video. And that's the 2-question, direct question task for the IELTS writing task 2. Well, there we go. The direct question, the 2-question, answer for the IELTS writing task. Next, we'll do another type of question, and we'll work together on that one as well. If you've enjoyed this video, then good. Please give me the thumbs up, and I'd appreciate it if you could subscribe to the video. Also, if you want me to cover any particular aspect that's worrying you or you're struggling, maybe the subordinate clauses or putting your complex sentences together or getting some of your vocabulary right, or maybe there's a particular type of question in the IELTS, not only the writing, whatever. If you want me to give you some assistance, I'm happy to do so. Just leave a comment in the comments below this video, and I'll get back to you, and we can arrange for me to do a video or whatever to help you along. Happy to do so. Okay, thank you for now. Take care wherever you are, and see you next video.